Welcome back to High Stakes. Today, we will be discussing the following NCAAF matches that is happening on Sunday, September 24th, 2023. We will be providing our team, total, and prop picks for the day. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. If you want access to our premium picks, you can check out our Patreon page. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the description and comment section below. Atlanta Falcons versus Detroit Lions. I'm rolling with Atlanta here. Atlanta's off to an impressive 2-0 start after beating the Panthers in Week 1 and following that up with a 25-24 comeback win over the Packers last weekend. Arthur Smith's squad entered the fourth quarter trailing the Pack 24-12, but rattled up 13 straight points to secure the win. That included a 6-yard touchdown run from Desmond Ridder and a pair of Young Hoku Field dogs, 39 yards, 25 yards. However, Atlanta failed to cover the -3.0 point spread, pushing them to 1-1 ATS this season. Ridder has been the man under center for the Falcons this season, and he's off to an above-average start. The second-year man out of Cincinnati has passed for 352 yards on a 68% completion rate, adding a pair of touchdowns and an interception. Bijan Robinson has handled the bulk of the work in the run game, picking up 180 yards on 29 carries, 6.2 YPC. He's also a target in the receiving game, hauling in 10 catches for 75 yards. You can give the defense a passing grade under first-year coordinator Ryan Nielsen. His unit is allowing just 17.0 points per contest, which makes them the 8th best team in the league. In terms of yardage, that translates to just 252.5 yards per game, which is good enough for third. Individually, linebacker Caden Ellis leads the way in both tackles, 15, and sacks, 1.0. Sunday's matchup promises to be an exciting one as the emerging Falcons aim to extend their undefeated streak to 3-0. While I believe they have a strong chance to win this game outright, I'll opt for the more conservative approach and take the points in this situation. Honestly, I'm not fully convinced by the Lions' prospects this year, especially considering the numerous lingering injuries they're dealing with. There's a possibility that Detroit may have to play without Amon-Ra St. Brown, WR, and it's confirmed that both David Montgomery, RB, and CJ Gardner-Johnson, CB, will be sidelined. With two of Jared Goff's favorite targets unavailable, it raises questions about who he can rely on in the passing game. In essence, both of these teams are in a developmental phase, making gradual progress. However, as they say, the most important factor is availability, and the Falcons seem to have a relatively healthy lineup compared to their counterparts. Also, I'm taking the over in Motown on Sunday. The expectations are high in Detroit this season after the Lions rattled off 8 wins in their final 10 games last year. They lived up to the hype in Week 1, defeating the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs in Kansas City by a score of 21-20. Dan Campbell's men followed that up with a clunker against a banged-up Seahawks squad last weekend, losing 37-31 in overtime. They're now 1-1 both SU and ATS, and the totals have gone 1-1 to the over. While I'm a little nervous as to who Goff will throw to in this game, there's no denying that the Lions have the ability to score points at home. Look for guys like Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond to step up in the receiving game and get a few more targets in this contest. As for Atlanta, I'm expecting them to put up a ton of points and match Detroit's pace in this game. The biggest concern surrounding the Lions' defense is their inability to get to the quarterback. We saw Pete Carroll add in some chip blocks to help his backup tackles, and that worked in his favor in a big way. Arthur Smith should be able to implement similar strategies and help his offensive line keep Desmond Ridder upright. If he has time, he'll be able to pick apart this Detroit secondary. New England Patriots versus New York Jets. Take the Patriots giving the points. The Patriots are in grave danger of completely falling apart to start the season. A third straight loss to kick off the season will turn the heat up on the Bill Belichick hot seat and send the New England fan base in a tailspin. The defense has allowed 320 total yards and 24.5 points per game. They have struggled against the run, giving up 121 yards per game on the ground and allowing 2 ground TDs last weekend. Starting DT Devin Gotcho missed practice this week for the birth of his child, but should be ready to roll on Sunday. DT Christian Barmore was limited with a knee injury, and starting DB Jonathan Jones was limited this week with an ankle injury. Offensively, New England lacks an identity, with neither the pass or rush game standing out in any particular way. Heading into this game, both may be affected by an ailing line that currently has starters Trent Brown, Cole Strange, and Mike Onwenu listed as questionable heading into this game. After a decent opener, Mac Jones threw for just 231 yards a TD and an INT in last week's loss to Miami. He was sacked 4 times and hit 7 times in the game. The Patriots currently hold a 0-2 against the spread (ATS) record this season, while the Jets stand at 1-1 ATS. Interestingly, the Jets were expected to surpass the Patriots at this point and leave them behind in their rearview mirror. However, due to Rodgers' injury and despite New England's lackluster performance, the Jets find themselves once again as the underdogs in this divisional rivalry. In the last 14 meetings, the Patriots have emerged victorious each time, boasting an 8-2 ATS record in their last 10 encounters with the Jets. It seems that, regardless of the circumstances, the Patriots tend to come out on top in these matchups. In their second meeting last year, the Patriots secured a 10-3 victory. Weather conditions are expected to play a significant role in this game, likely leading to a ground-focused approach. Surprisingly, this may favor New England, especially considering Hall's knee issues. In the previous game, the Jets' top rusher was Wilson with 36 yards, a challenge that New England's defense can likely handle. Furthermore, Bill Belichick has a history of excelling in these kinds of sloppy weather games, which is fully expected as a potential tropical cyclone looms. The final score might resemble another 10-3 affair, but it appears that the trend of the Patriots winning will continue. Also take the under. There is no magical, mystery QB ready to swoop in and save the Jets. It's Zach Wilson or bust at this point, and that isn't awesome. Thus far, he has completed just 54.2% of his passes, averaging 155 passing yards over 2 games with just 2 total touchdowns and 4 interceptions. It is not helping his cause that the offensive line has been a bit porous, allowing 5 sacks over 2 games. Seeking out receiver Garrett Wilson more may help Zach's cause. 2 of his 7 catches have wound up in the end zone, and Wilson is averaging 16.7 yards per catch. Last week versus Dallas, the Jets wide receiver caught just 2 passes, but for 83 yards and a TD. This is a fairly low total, and for good reasons. The first is the weather. This could turn into a very wet game, making it hard to grip and throw the football. That puts things on the ground, and again, a slippery ball could be cause for turnovers. A ground game also slows the whole affair down while keeping the clock rolling. Then there is the fact that both offenses are not good, especially the run games. Neither of these teams is going to be busting out 75-plus runs in this game, and passes of that ilk are completely out of the question. The Patriots' O-line is banged up, and last week they had trouble run blocking, allowing 8 tackles for loss. Their last meeting saw a total of 13 points scored between them. Houston Texans versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Take the Jaguars giving the point. All are aware that the Texans are a team in full transition, once again, but there is most certainly excitement in the air with the talented young group they have accumulated. Quarterback C.J. Stroud has looked good over the course of his first 2 NFL games, but now looks to play with pain after suffering a right shoulder injury last week. The rookie signal caller threw for 384 yards and his first 2 touchdown passes versus the Colts last week. Stroud has yet to throw a pick. Rookie receiver Tank Dell caught 7 passes from Stroud last week, including his first career touchdown. The running game has yet to get rolling, eating up only 124 yards on the ground over 2 games. The Texans are 0-2 ATS and the Jaguars are 1-1 ATS on the year. Houston does have a 9-1 record straight up over the last 10 games, but it was all Jacksonville when they met at the end of last season, 31-3. The Jags crushed a minus 3.5 spread in that outing as well. Stroud and company were only able to muster 9 points in their season opener on the road. Now, a bit banged up, the Texans' rookie QB will face another road test here, and I don't think he is in good enough shape to pass. That Houston offense is so young and still very much learning each other. On the other side, Lawrence is very much looking like a poised veteran under center, and at home he slings it. The weather will favor the passing game, and that puts Jacksonville in prime position. Also take the under. The Jacksonville offense struggled against the Chiefs this past weekend, scoring just 9 points with 271 total yards. After looking decent in the season opener, completing 75% of his passes, Trevor Lawrence was ho-hum in Week 2, completing just 53.7% of his passes for 216 yards and no touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times in the game and was hurried 18 times, so the line will need to step up more in his favor moving forward. Wide receiver Zay Jones has not participated in practice this week due to a knee injury, and his status is in question for this game. Both teams have seen the total in their first 2-game split. Both sides have seen their offense score just 9 points in a game this season, and Houston hasn't scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game. Stroud has shown some flashes, but as Trevor Lawrence knows, it's not easy to play quarterback in your first season. Their last meeting, which came on January 1st of this year, they put up a combined 34 points, well off the pace of the total placed on them this Sunday. The under has gone 7-3 over the last 10 meetings between these teams. To reach this total, it would take one of these teams going off and carrying the majority of the load, which I can't see happening.